This is a story about Robert, and it's a story about what I call creative obstinacy, and the two often go together. It goes back about 40 years. Robert and I were both researching on irrigation management, and we were visiting an irrigation scheme in Sri Lanka called Kaudula. And at that point, there was a very common narrative, official narrative about irrigation schemes, that farmers were wasting lots and lots of water and they should change their behavior. Also at that time, Robert was very well known for a set of ideas and attitudes, sometimes summarized as rural development tourism, which was the basic proposition: when you go visiting places, you should do the opposite of what everyone else does, which is to say you shouldn't go to places by main roads, you should go to right off-road, you shouldn't talk to men, you should talk to women, you shouldn't go in the dry season, you should go in the rainy season, you shouldn't go to official projects, you should go to other areas, etc. And on this occasion, Robert practiced that. He said, we are going to walk down this irrigation channel, irrigation distributory, to the end. And we had a number of local officials with us, and they were not particularly keen on walking. And we started walking, and it started getting more and more damp underfoot, that very soggy underfoot. And the local officials were really not keen on going on. They were, I think, we're probably all wearing shoes. But Robert insisted we go on. And eventually the local officials dropped off one by one, and it was just Robert and myself. And we kept on walking and got very wet feet and very muddy feet. But at the end of all this, at the very end of the irrigation channel, we found the thing of which you see a picture there. And let me briefly explain this thing without going into the details of hydrology. What was essentially happening was that local people, let's call them squatters, had constructed completely artificial and very cheap dams on the drainage channels from the irrigation system to raise the water a certain level so they could reuse this so-called alleged waste water to grow more rice. And so the narrative about farmers wasting water was at least highly questionable, but no one in that discussion, and I knew that scheme fairly well, had ever suggested that there was this level of reuse of irrigation water at the end. So this, I thought, was a great triumph of creative obstinacy. Very enjoyable. You see Robert prancing around on this artificial dam here. But I'm just going to end with one little question, which is, if Robert were to do this today in the same circumstances and show the same sort of slightly cavalier disregard for the feelings of the local officials there who really didn't want to walk down, would he be guilty of some kind of neo-colonial attitudes or not?